Folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today's video, I just want to talk to you. Not going to do a lot of news or tips or anything like that. This is just a conversation because I think that we are on the precipice of something really big in our world. I think that we are, as we're watching all of these events play out, and they've been playing out for a long time. I mean, even longer than 2 years. I mean, 2 years ago, as we all know, it was kind of like the world got kicked into high gear on this great change and this great reset or great collapse that we're all experiencing. But the building blocks for this have been put into motion a long time ago. And I want to talk about that today because I think that many of us, and in fact, all of us, I think all of us, including myself, we're not really prepared for the changes that we're about to see. And I say that because I think they're going to be so great and so different. They could be horrible. They could just be so much different than the world that we've known all this time. And part of what we're doing here and what I'm doing here on this channel is to try to get people as ready for that change as possible. I mean, our options are pretty simple. To just sit back and let it happen and hope that we have a chance of making it out on the other end, okay, or to be proactive and to do something and to get ourselves prepared, because quite honestly, we don't know how this is all going to end. I mean, we can have a, pretty good assumption, but in the end, we just don't know how it plays out. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. Before I get that started, two things just to remind you once again, for you local folks that want to attend our local monthly meeting, it is this next weekend on Sunday, and it's at 2 p.m. The meeting is held in Texas County, Missouri, which is kind of the central part of the Missouri Ozarks. If you're interested in attending, please email me. For the rest of you that are regular attenders, it's the attendees, I guess is the proper term. It is the same time and same place as always. So show up if you're able to. And then also on top of that, we have our big expo happening the end of May 26th and 27th. I'll be doing some more updates on our website in the next day or two. I've been in communication, and then some of you may be watching this say, well, I haven't heard from you in the last couple of days. It's been busy around here. I mean, this is a weekend for us. Yesterday was our day of rest, and we had family here, and we have family here now. So I haven't done as much of the responding back to some of you, but I will get to it, so don't worry. But the point is that there's looks like some more special speakers and demonstrators and vendors that I'm working on lining up. It's going to be a big event for the whole family, and there's no charge to you. We're just asking that you sign up on the website so that we can kind of get prepared for how many to show up. It's just preparedhomesteadexpo.com, preparedhomesteadexpo.com. If you go to that website, you can learn more about it. All right, on to my babbling. We all know, I think, all of you that's watching, are all familiar with this World Economic Forum Great Reset, and it's really expanded beyond that. We're seeing nations, mostly in the West, all regurgitating their words and their slogans, from here in the United States to Australia and Canada and Great Britain and all across the Europe and even in a few other countries. We're seeing that happen. We're seeing the United Nations on board with this. We're seeing other, NGOs, kind of like the World Government Summit and others kind of regurgitating this reset. I mean, they're wanting it to happen, and many of us and many online that produce content similar to mine have been kind of warning about it. We've been, letting people know for the last few years that this is their motivation. This is what they want to happen. The reality is, it's not so much that they want a reset. The reality is that a reset is going to happen regardless of what the World Economic Forum does or not. Um, Rises and falling of civilizations, it's a cyclical thing. It happens over and over and over again, and it has throughout history. And we are in a place of excitement and change, and also catastrophe um, and a lot of turmoil. And it's unfortunate that those of us that are alive today that are seeing it, and in some ways it's a blessing. But the fact is that we are in the middle, as best as I can determine, of a changing and a collapse and a reset of our civilization. This happens over and over again. And the only thing that this World Economic Forum Great Reset is that they see it coming. They know that it's happening. And so what they're trying to do is to create a system, to create a new culture, a new civilization to very quickly take its place. And in some ways, you could say, well, it's a good thing. I mean, what should we do? Should we allow it to just completely collapse and we get knocked back to the Middle Ages for a while until we have to rebuild our civilization? Or should we build something now to take its place, to replace it? As the collapse is happening, you slide in this new way of existence. So in some ways, it sounds like a good idea. The big problem is that they plan on doing it in a way that exerts even more control over us. It's not that we're furthering our advancement of freedom and of advancement of this individuality that we have done building up in the current civilization. What they're wanting to do is to take that away and use technology, very advanced technology and advanced thinking, into taking away what little bit of freedom that we have left. So that's the real big problem with the Great Reset. The fact is, though, is that we are going through a form of collapse. Um, just 2 years ago, it was considered a very fringy, out on the edge conspiracy theory that we were going through some type of collapse. And now, just 2 years later, it's become pretty much a mainstream, or very nearly a mainstream theory that we are experiencing this. This is something that, not to toot my own horn, but actually about 18 years ago, as I was studying, I've always been a student of history. And as I was studying history and studying current politics and the way things were going, and as my eyes were becoming more and more open to what really goes on in this world, what really happens behind the curtains, I came to realize that we were most likely going to go through some type of civilization collapse in my lifetime. And at that time, I figured it was probably about 15 years out, and that was between 18 and 20 years ago. So I was off by a few years, I guess. Um, but the point is that it does appear that it's happening. And we don't know how this is going to end. This could play out much like, say, the Mayan Empire, where they just kind of disappeared. I mean, there's a lot of information about them existing, and then there's not a lot of information about how they just disappeared. And they're not the only ones that went through that. There are many other great civilizations of history that rose up and became very powerful and very advanced for their time, and then they just kind of disappeared. There's other civilizations, and a great example is the Roman Empire. That was a great, large, powerful, and influential civilization across this planet. And the technology advances during that time were actually quite great. And they didn't go through a collapse in the way that they just ceased to exist. Their collapse basically, they broke up into smaller empires and smaller nations and were absorbed into rising ones. Um, and so the people and some of the cultures still exist today, but it's nowhere even close to being an empire that it once was. Either one of those possibilities could happen, and there's other possibilities that could happen. We don't know, and that's the thing. We don't know how this is all going to play out, but we do know that it's happening, and I don't think that there's any doubt or question in my mind that it's happening. What does that mean for you and I? That's where I always try to pull it back in. Is what does it mean for you and I? It means that we are most likely, we already have. Think of just an area that, I guess I have to be a little careful now on YouTube because it's one of the new things that they're censoring. But think of this new movement of gender identity. How much that has changed just in the last 2 to 4 years. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, the stuff that's happening today would never have been thought of. It would have been so radical, so out there on the edge that the average person would not have accepted it. They wouldn't have even dreamed of accepting it. I mean, they couldn't imagine the things that are being taught in schools, and the behaviors of teachers, and the behaviors of leaders, and the behaviors of parents, what they're wanting to do to their children, wouldn't have even been dreamed of 4 or 5 years ago. And yet, in a very short amount of time, that's where we're at today. So we're already seeing massive change. This kind of change is going to continue on, and it's going to worsen. The biggest problem that we have here in America is that we have created a civilization that is far, far too luxurious. It's too convenient. It's too plush. It's too safe. It's too easy. And so we have basically bred a generation or two of very lazy people, of very weak people, of people that just don't have the resilience to go out there and to really survive. Because of that, we have also now created a society that is too weak to stand up against evil. We've created a society that compromises every day, left and right. Very few people anymore seem to have the strength to say, this is evil, this is wrong, and I will not accept this. I'm not going to call something by a name that it's not. And as more and more in our society, even people that we have looked upon, or groups that we have looked upon as being the kind of the lighthouse of righteousness, or this lighthouse of morality, seem to fall more and more into the acceptance and the tolerance of the wickedness that's going on. We realize that there are very few people anymore. There's very few, strongholds of strength and morality, and the ability and the desire to stand up against evil. And this is happening not just in the moral areas of our country and our civilization. We're seeing it play out in our economy. We're seeing it play out in our interactions around the world, where countries no longer fear us. They no longer have respect for us. They no longer are weary about standing up against the United States or the West, because we have shown that we are not the strength and the powerhouse that we once were. All of this and more are very indicative to the collapse of our civilization. And so what I hope to get across, and what I hope to have already kind of started conveying over the last several weeks, is that this collapse, this reset, whatever it is that's happening, whatever you want to call it, it is happening. It's going to happen. And while I can't tell you whether or not the World Economic Forum's version of the Great Reset will actually be put into play and happen, I suspect that at least some parts of it will be implemented. The fact is that you and I are going to experience a change that we never thought possible. I predict that next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and each year for quite a while, we're going to look back each year and think that we just can't believe the amount of changes that's happened, that the world doesn't even look the same as it did a year ago, and it'll just compound and compound. Economically, things are changing. The luxury of us having abundance is changing. The world that we live on is changing. I mean, the planet itself, nature, the creation of the Father, it goes through cycles also, and usually those cycles do coincide with changes of civilization and changes in how humans interact and react to those natural changes. And so it's all connected, and we are seeing all that happen, and that's why we have to get ready. Um, I do believe, from a spiritual perspective, from a biblical perspective, that we are going to experience some of that. There are many, and I'm not saying you're wrong, I just disagree, that believe that if we are believers, that we won't experience any of that, that we will get caught up in a way before anything bad happens. Well, the fact is there's already a lot of things that's bad that's happening. And I suspect and believe that we will go through and experience a lot more bad things happen before anything changes for us that are believers. And that's why we have to prepare. That's why we have to get our houses in order. And I'm not just talking about stacking cans and beans and bullets. I'm talking about building our spiritual strength so that we can withstand the spiritual attacks, the attack and the questioning that will rock our foundations, our moral foundations. And we will have to make decisions. Some of you already have. Make decisions to stand for what you know is right, and potentially lose relationships, potentially lose jobs, even lose money and other things, or to compromise and bow down and give in to the mob. This is going to become more and more, a regular thing. So we have to strengthen that spiritual walk. We also need to strengthen our mind not just in skills, but strengthen our mind in the ability to withstand these changes, the ability to not get so broken down and collapsing inside because of the fear and because of the unknown that we're facing. We are capable of withstanding quite a bit, and history has proven that already. And so another thing that I hope to do on this channel is to also strengthen that. Um, we don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know how bad it's going to get. We don't always know what's around the next corner. I mean, we can have a good idea if we stay on top of things that are changing, but as we've all seen over the last couple of years, a lot of the things that we think are going to happen don't, and things that we think probably aren't within the realm of possibility do. And so we have to be ready for that. We have to be in a position of very much like a warrior getting ready for battle, that things are going to happen. The chances are things are going to be bad. You may not know what those are, but you're ready for whatever happens. And that's really a place that we all need to work towards and to get to, because it is happening. This isn't a going to thing. It's not maybe going to happen. We aren't might be, maybe, could possibly be going through some kind of reset or civilization change or collapse. We are going through that. And there's not really any other way around it. We don't know how bad it's going to be. We don't know what it's going to look like on the other end. But most definitely, we are going through some pretty radical changes in our civilization, in our culture. And we have to get ready for that, folks. And so, once again, I say to you, get your houses in order. And I truly mean that. We have to be prepared for this in every possible way, and really start reevaluating how we exist, and how we can exist into the future, and how we can prepare ourselves for doing without, or doing not having the things that we're used to. We have been conditioned to live in a land and in a world that is so plentiful, and everything is right at our fingertips, and that all could very easily change within our lifetimes. And so Continue to get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves every day, mentally, physically, and spiritually, because like it or not, we are in the midst of a reset. And I think it's going to continue to happen for quite a while before things start to find a new normal. And as much as I hate to use their terminology, that is what's going to happen. All right, folks, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.